Hey, Astamura, welcome. Thanks for being here for the new live stream. And hey, Lord Henry. Glad you both are here. Good to see you again. Hope we have an enjoyable live stream today. You know, I'm always curious, and I'll start with me. My channel title and the name that I choose for all of my gaming characters goes way back, and I mean way back. I've been on the internet since before the internet was the internet. Yes, I'm old. But back when I was younger, I was part of an online gaming group that played the LucasArts games X-Wing and TIE Fighter. And I came up with the name Jorval back then when I first started playing that game. And that was kind of my first online interaction. Now, X-Wing wasn't multiplayer, it wasn't online. We played as part of a group where people, including myself, would create custom missions inside the game. We would send those missions out. People could download them, install them into the game, and play them, and then report back on the results. So it wasn't really a true online experience, but the forum experience was online as a community. And that's where I created my name, Damon Jorval. And I just made it up. I didn't have any inspirations for it or anything like that. It was a unique name that I knew if I used in future online games would more than likely be available to me to use because it was fairly unique. The commander part came in with the rank that I was given in the Rebel Alliance when I took over a training academy for TIE Fighter. You can actually go find my original profile still on the Rebel Squadron's website if you dig through it enough. It's kind of funny, but that's where Commander Jorval came from originally and how it's been going. All of my characters are going to be named Jorval in some way. I will tack on various things at the end or different spellings as I have different playthroughs in the same games, but that's kind of where it all comes from. So I'm curious where some of your handles and names have come from and or what they mean. As I see them pop up in chat, it's always interesting. Hey Philip, welcome. Yeah, Philip, we had kind of talked about this, that I was kind of holding off on another live stream until Dragon Age the Veilguard released to see, so I could play it and see if it was going to be suitable for a live stream. It's going to be it's a much different flavor than Baldur's Gate 3. It's going to be a lot less of me teaching people how to play the game. There's still going to be some of that, but I don't claim to be any, huge expert. This is much more of a Twitch type, and I don't mean Twitch as in the streaming platform. I mean Twitch as in first-person shooter type of thing, even though that's not what this is. This is much more dynamic combat gameplay. That, if you're familiar with the previous games, you obviously know what it's like. But yeah, it's going to be a lot less of me strategizing and that sort of stuff, as opposed to going through the quests and the companion interactions and that sort of stuff, with obviously the combat thrown in and how we use our skills and our combos and and that sort of stuff to expand upon it. But yeah, a lot less, a much different flavor if you've only seen me in the Baldur's Gate 3 streams. Yeah, that's it. There, and I might have oversimplified that. There, of course, is a strategy to use it. And I'll be expanding upon that as we go through the gameplay today in the class that I've chosen to use. But yeah, it's not thinking out every single move in advance and then explaining what I'm going to do and why I'm going to do it. This game is much more the old hack and slash types, you know, very, very dynamic, very in-your-face type of combat system where you have everything kind of prepped as far as your skills go, and then you just implement it type of thing. So, but yeah, I'm interested, like we were talking earlier, kind of where y'all's names might have come from. Of course, if it's your real name, it's your real name. But, and if Henry actually is a lord, then, you know, I will start calling you by your title. Yeah, Philip, I did that a long time ago. I know exactly how I got my name. I was named after a golf club. But I won't go into too much depth in it, like I say, because I don't give out a whole lot of personally identifying information on my streams. But yep, I was named at short stories. I was named after a golf club. Oh, and just as an admin note, we are going to let the music play today for this first live stream. I will very quickly find out how much of this is going to be copyrighted and how much of it is going to be you know, mentioned or brought up as we go through. And if music gets turned off, the music gets turned off. I never had a problem with that with Baldur's Gate 3, or I did have it with Starfield in the intro. I had to wait for the music to stop playing in the intro to Starfield after the first one, so I'll do the same thing here. I'll wait and see. Yeah, Lord Darren, very similar to what mine is. You know, I got the rank through the rank part of my name coming from playing, you know, the X-Wing video games where it was rank based, and that obviously played into my military, you know, background. But I was never, nor did I ever want to be an officer in the military. I was very happy being senior enlisted. Oh, but yeah, never held that actual rank in the military. But yeah, Philip, the elf mage is a very, very popular choice. And it's a style that when I played Inquisition, when I played through it the second or the third time, I think the second time is what I went with as well, was the mage route. It suited my playstyle back then, and it's to be honest, it suits it as well now. I'm not a first-person shooter type. I'm not. My twitch skills, my fast muscle twitch skills aren't what they used to be when I was younger. So playing that style suits me a lot more, where I can sit back and lob Nova strikes at enemies from range. The rogue that I've chosen is difficult for me. It's challenging for me, but I think it's also fun. Because I don't have a choice. I can't just sit back at range and lob arrows all day long. Arrows run out in this game, just like they did in Inquisition. So I'm going to have to get in and mix it up, but I'm not in there mixing it up all the time either. And that, I think, is important for me maintaining my sanity in this. But I like the rogue gameplay that I have set for myself. It is very dynamic. It's very movement-based, and I think it suits me well enough. Everyone's going to play their characters differently, not just classes differently, but play the character differently. I have my own ways of playing the rogue, which may be entirely different than how other people are going to play the rogue, but I'm not here to try and tell anybody how to play their individual classes. I'm not here to do that, just like in Baldur's Gate 3. I'm here to just play a game, and hopefully we all have fun, and maybe we learn a little something as we go through it. But I'm anxious to see what y'all think of the playstyle that I have as we go through this. Yeah, Philip, they're very, very popular choices. So, I've always been more of a rogue/ranger for my first playthrough type, and then the mage type on my second playthrough of anything. It's been that way for decades, but that's how it went with Dungeons and Dragons Online. That's how it went with all those sorts of things. Always played ranged or sneaky up front, and then kind of went a different way on the second playthrough. But like I say, that's what's great about these games. Everyone is different. Everyone has their own. Everyone has their own preferences and playstyles, so it's really good to see. Hey Rudy, welcome. Good to see you again for the new live stream. Welcome everyone to today's live stream, episode number 1 of our Dragon Age the Veilguard Rogue gameplay series. I'm Commander Droval, and I want to thank you for coming along on our journey today. So, we have a new live stream. I mentioned when we came to the end of the Paladin and Bard live streams from Baldur's Gate 3, I was going to take some time off, and a lot of that time off was to wait and see how well the Veilguard was suited to me doing a live stream on it. I do have some playthrough in it. You can see there's continue at the top up here on the game menu, so I do have a playthrough. I've gone through and done some testing, and I can play multiple different characters with different save files at the same time. It just wasn't an option until I create a new game, which we're going to do today. So I do have some playtime in it. It's very small. It's only 3 to 5 hours maybe. in it so far. So I haven't gotten very far, but one thing that I've learned is that I think it is suitable for me to run as a live stream. There is enough opportunity for me to possibly show people things that they might have missed. There's an opportunity for me to explore and explain how some of the stuff works that people might not be utilizing in their playthrough as much. That I think there's some good opportunities for learning, as well as just the standard run in, hack and slash, and have fun type of gameplay that Dragon Age is known for. So I think the game is well suited to it, and that's why we have the new live stream starting today. Now today is kind of a one-off because it is during the NFL football season. I normally will not have a live stream on Sunday mornings. I will normally be either at a football game, at a tailgate, or I will be with my friends in the morning getting ready to watch the game starting at noon. So this is a one-off. My football team played on Thursday, so we don't have a game today. And yesterday I was at my college football game, alma mater football game in the afternoon, so couldn't have the live stream then. Going forward, this live stream is going to be Saturday from 2 p.m. Central Standard Time to 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. That is GMT minus 6, because just this morning we changed out of Daylight Savings Time. So we'll have the Baldur's Gate 3 Honor Mode live stream, and then I'll have an hour break to get some lunch, grab some water, help my voice relax a little bit, and then we'll be right back at it for another 3 hours here with Dragon Age the Veilguard. So I will update the About tab to change the streaming time to better reflect the Saturday afternoon time that it's going to be at, and I hope all of you are able to join at that time. But we'll kind of play it by ear as we go through this and see how well that time works. Once the NFL season ends, then this live stream will move back to its normal time, which is Sunday in that 2 to 5 p.m. Central Standard Time slot. That gives me a bit of my weekend to do with what I want. So I can stream in the morning on Saturday, have Saturday afternoon to go out and do whatever I want to do, Sunday morning to be able to do whatever I want to do, and then stream Sunday afternoon, as opposed to losing all of my Saturday with just 6 straight hours almost of live streaming. I'll have a break there on my weekends. So, but today's a one-off, so you get a Sunday morning live stream here, and I think that is enough for the admin notes. So kind of our first live stream introduction here. So Dragon Age has had several games. I don't want to just limit it to the popular Xbox One franchise of games, but there have been several games that go hand in hand with the Dragon Age series. Now, the Dragon Age series is a fantasy-based role-playing game. That's what it is. It's always been developed by BioWare, and this one is still developed by BioWare. It is published by EA, Electronic Arts. Again, always has been published by EA. And it originally was heavily focused around the Xbox, specifically Xbox 360, but then they have releases for PlayStation 3, Windows, Mac, even PlayStation, the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, 5, all of those, up to the current one now. The first game in the series was Dragon Age Origins, and there are some things in this game that actually reference all the way back to Dragon Age Origins. In fact, part of the main storyline of this is a direct reference to stuff that took place in Dragon Age Origins, specifically with the Blight and Darkspawn and all of that sort of stuff. The direct sequel to Dragon Age Origins was Dragon Age 2. And in that one, you again focused around mostly the same type of stuff. It was again a Warden of the March type of, or Grey Warden type of based fighting against the Darkspawn and the Blight type of game. The third installment was different. The third installment was Dragon Age Inquisition. And this is kind of after the events of that. After the events of the Blight, restoring peace to Thedas, which is the world in general here that you're playing in, by sealing something called the Rift. And the Rift was something that was allowing demons to invade the overall world in which these games are played in. And Dragon Age Inquisition, and again, there were several other things that went along with this as far as mobile-based stuff and shorter type of expansions and DLCs that went along with the various games. Like I say, I don't want to minimize any of those other things that took place in the same universe and expanded on it, but Dragon Age Inquisition was the last full game release in the series, and that was 10 years ago. That was 2014 when Inquisition released, and we have now gotten the fourth installment, Dragon Age the Veilguard, which again is going to, it's a direct sequel to Inquisition, in that it's going to take place fairly closely after the ending of Inquisition. Some time has passed, obviously, but we're going to pick up and see some of the characters that were in Inquisition brought back into Veilguard, and that's always just like it was for Baldur's Gate 3. That is a very interesting and enjoyable thing for me to see. I love these games tying themselves together in that way. Now, the thing that is missing here is that all three of those games, you were able to import a save file from the previous game. So all of the choices that you made in those previous games would directly affect the playthrough of the game you were playing. Very similar to Mass Effect. This being a 10-year gap, that isn't possible for them to do. However, in character creation, you are able to reference some of those things that happened in those previous games when you are setting your character up, and we'll kind of explain that as we jump in here. So I think that gives us enough of kind of the background if you aren't familiar with Dragon Age, and if you are just here to see some gameplay, that is what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and jump in here.
I knew him as Solas. Smart, thoughtful, loved to hear himself talk. But long ago, he had a different name. The Dreadwolf. Ancient elven god of lies, or heroic rebel against tyranny, depending on which story you believe. In his desperate fight against the corrupt elven gods, Solas imprisoned them, creating a veil that split our world from the raw magic of the Fade. He had won. But the veil cost the elves everything. Their magic, their freedom, even their immortality. Now, Solas wants to tear down that veil and undo the damage he caused, even if that means our world has to burn. Somebody's gotta stop him, and that's where you come in.
And welcome, Truly Here. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here for the live stream. For those of you who are not aware, the voice that you just heard was from Varric. And Varric is a long-time character in the Dragon Age series, and the voice actor is Brian Bloom. Brian Bloom has voiced Varric in all of the Dragon Age games. And Varric is a fan favorite character. Always has been and always will be. Now, I'm not going to spend hours talking about all of the backstories and voice actors and all that sort of stuff about it, but for those of us who have played all of these previous games, and I have, hearing Varric starting out that dialogue there and hearing Brian Bloom's voice again is just really cool for me to see. You're going to see something, I'm not going to spoil it here, but you're going to see something coming up here pretty quick after character creation that really, the first time I saw it, it made me shout out when I saw it. So here we get to start with our lineage. Lineage has no effect on the game whatsoever other than dialogue opportunities. So whichever character you choose, or whichever lineage you choose here, it's not going to give you bonuses or negatives in your character or their abilities, similar to what you would expect in a Dungeons and Dragons based or a Baldur's Gate 3 game, where your race, which is what lineage is here, gives you certain bonuses and negatives. That is not the case here. It only affects your dialogue. So feel free to select any of these that you want. The description for dwarf has an exclamation point down there, which is a bit misleading. It says, while dwarves cannot use magic, their combat skills are feared across Thedas. What that really is saying is that your dwarf characters are going to be limited in what classes they can choose. It does not mean that they're going to get any bonuses in those combat classes. It just means that they can't do or select a certain class. That's why the exclamation point is there. They're not gaining any bonuses to their combat skills above any of the others. Don't think that that is what that is implying. All of these are the exact same when it comes to balancing purposes in the game. So my lineage, I'm going to choose elf. Feel free to choose whatever you would like. And then you get into appearance. So you're able to choose any of the various starting appearances here, the presets that you can work off of. You can select how people refer to you, other NPCs refer to you in the game, and how the narrator refers to you in the game. I'm just going to do a tiny bit of customization just to kind of show you how this works. Some of it, I'll tell you, I like. Some of it, I don't like. For instance, the feature here for selecting your head shape, what they call head blending, is based upon picking 3 different heads and trying to minimize and maximize features that come from each of them. I think it's a little bit non-intuitive, and this doesn't add to that. This doesn't matter what the base values are at all. There are 30 different heads that you can pick from. If you click on one, you can see all of the different things, and there are very subtle differences between some of them. Okay, some people might not be able to tell differences at all between 21 and 22 just looking at them. There are nose differences on 21 versus 22. Okay, there are more pronounced larynxes here on 21 versus 22. Things like there are very, very subtle differences. Some of them you can tell, a much more narrow width head a much more narrow width eye with a higher forehead than some of the others. But what you're supposed to do is select 3 different heads and then move this slider around to blend different aspects of the 3 heads together. I think it's a rather convoluted way of selecting features by picking 3 different heads and trying to choose features out of each one by moving a morphing slider around. At the end of the day, this is how they chose to do it. I just feel that it's a little non-intuitive. It allows for an infinite, basically, selection of options for selecting some of this stuff, but I don't think it's, like I say, the most intuitive way of going about it. Complexion, fairly straightforward. You can pick skin tones based upon warm, neutral, and cool skin tones, and you can select how bright or how dark those skin tones are all the way through. You have complexion, which is basically as you change this around, it will add in different shaders to your complexion, basically. You can add vitiligo, which is actually a really cool option that you're seeing more often for the skin pigmentation that you find in certain individuals. Adding that in there is something that we've been seeing more and more in video games. The forehead and brow, we get into the more standard slider-based width, depth, spacing, all of that sort of stuff that you see in games, which is picking one thing at a time and adjusting it up and down. I think people are much more familiar with all of this sort of stuff than they are, with the head blending way that you start out getting some of these values. And then up here at the top, you can go through various different things. Again, you have undergarment styles that you can pick. You have an overall body shape where, again, you're blending muscular, overall width and thinness of the body on these 2 sliders, and then muscularity based upon what you choose. So this one with only 3 options here is much more easily usable. It's fairly easy, slim versus thick, non-muscular versus muscular, as opposed to selecting one of 30 different options and trying to blend those all together. But proportion, skin tone, all that sort of stuff, eyes and eye color. And again, I'm not going to be doing all of this stuff. There are just some standard things that if you've seen me play this before, you've seen the colors that I select mostly for my characters. So this hairstyle is fine with me. I normally go with a white hairstyle for my characters. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going through all of this, but you have makeup, you have tattoos, scars. You can select your ear shape and position and all of that sort of stuff. Elves here in this game have much more pronounced ears than elves in a lot of other games that you might be useful to or used to. So, like I say, not a whole lot of customization. Feel free to do whatever you want in those. For class, all of these games have had 3 classes, and that is Rogue, Warrior, and Mage. They are all very different from each other in that they are all going to focus on different skills and a different skill tree to do during different things. And there is no multi-classing between them, so to speak. You pick one, and that is your skill set of what you're going to do. Now, rogues are not bow-based or melee-based. They are both. You can choose to play without ever using a bow. You can choose to play without ever using melee. It's a little hard to do either or of those two. It's much easier to play melee only with a rogue and disregard the bow entirely than it is vice versa, because of how they have the balancing set. But it does both. It's not either or. Your warrior is your main melee-based, tank-based character. You run in, you use defend mostly, which is block, basically, as your main defensive strategy, whereas the rogue tends to be much more dodge-based. You can play a rogue defend-based. I'm not saying that you can't. My playstyle is going to be much more dynamic with using dodge a lot more, whereas the warriors tend to stay in combat more often in melee range and use the defend or block feature more often. The mage is your Nova damage-based characters that normally deal it from range. However, you can get in close and personal with a mage to deal certain short-range spell damage, which tend to be higher damage-based. Mages can deal out the biggest amount of single-shot damage in the game. However, some of those spells take a while to develop, and you can get interrupted if you're not careful with them. So my choice here is going to be Rogue. That is my my first selection here for my playthrough. That's what it's going to be. And like I say, there may be other playthroughs as we go through this where I switch to a mage or a warrior, but for now, I'm going to concentrate on a rogue. So, hey Dave, welcome. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Yeah, and Philip, that's kind of what I mentioned in the appearance. There's a lot of sliders in there. I think back in the day, there were almost no character optimization options. You selected a preset, and that's what it was. We might have swung a bit in the opposite direction of that, so that there's too many. However, at the end of the day, if you choose not to use any of them, they're there for you to use if you want to. If you don't, you just don't have to use them. So I think we've probably swung into there are way too many options to customize your appearance, but then again, I can choose just not to use them. And other people who love to spend 3 hours customizing their character can go through and do that. So I'm going to choose the rogue class here. Now, your faction. This is your backstory. Very similar to backstories in other games that you're aware of. However, there's also bonuses here that go along with each backstory. Okay, so you deal increased damage versus Darkspawn if you're a member of the Grey Wardens. Your base defense and health are slightly increased, and when they say slightly, they mean slightly. They're not trying to have your backstory be an unbalancing factor in the game. Okay, they want you to feel free to select any backstory you want and have the same experience going through the game from a combat perspective. So none of these things that tell you that your damage is going to be increased or your base defense or health are going to be increased are game breaking, okay, or are debilitating if you don't have them. It is not that way in the game. Feel free to choose any of the backstories that you want and take the very slight bonuses that come along with them. Okay. Now there is one exception to that, which I'll kind of talk about. But here again, every backstory is going to have a damage increase against a certain type of enemy. Okay. The Veil Jumpers are your traditional rogue-based characters in that you're focusing on critical strikes and weak point damage. That's not what I'm going to be using, but that's traditionally what they have been used for. But again, you can use any backstory you want. The Shadow Dragons have always been traditionally your mage-based characters. Your mana will regenerate, again, very slightly faster when using them. Lords of Fortune is, again, more of your melee-based characters, and that's kind of how these work. Melee, rogue, and mage, melee, and then the Morn Watch. And these three are kind of specialty that go along with the same things, which are kind of mixes of the others. But the Morn Watch is more necromancy and or rogue necrosis based, which gives you additional affliction stacks on targets. Now this one allows more damage over time, which can be more useful than the slight damage increases that are given by others. And then the Antivan Crows, I think are the most stylish, if you just look at the fit. But they have a hidden pouch which holds an extra potion. Now, potions are your healing potions. So instead of starting with 3, you're going to start with 4. And that can be a big benefit. And that's not the reason that I'm picking the Antivan Crows, but more of the backstory behind them. They are the assassin class. They are the strike from the shadows type of class. I've always loved the Antivan Crows faction in the game, and having increased damage against the Antam, which you will see in the first part of the game, not as much in the back end of the game, kind of helps me get a very, very slight bonus to ease at the start of the game. Having an extra healing potion is obviously very good for me, especially because I'm not great at these type of fast-paced games anyway. So this will explain your backstory a little bit. It comes with a pre-made backstory. So I've been kind of kicked out of the Antivan Crows, more put on a back burner and kind of taken out of frontline service, given all of the crap jobs, so to speak, for the Antivan Crows, because I've been kind of a malcontent inside the organization. So now your playstyle. This is your difficulty setting, is what this is. All the way up to a full customization that you can do, from nightmare difficulty all the way down to storyteller. As always, I pick balanced or right in the middle for these playthroughs. I'm not interested in trying to show myself reload a game 15 times in an encounter. That might happen, but I prefer it not to happen all the time. And now here, okay, I'm going to pick my first name here. The last name is based on your faction. You can pick your voice here, whichever one you would like. And oh, let me go back here. So here's the customized based upon Inquisition. So since there is no game import here from Dragon Age Inquisition, because it was a decade ago, this allows you to choose what your character was like back in the previous game. Now, if you do happen to have footage of the previous game, you can actually edit your character to be exactly like what it was previously. You can decide who your character was involved with romantically from the previous games. So you can do a an import of sorts, basically by just going through and selecting what options you had happen at the end of Inquisition. You don't have to do any of this. This will affect how characters interact with you, and how events play out at the start of the game, and as you go through and meet more of your companions. But you don't have to do any of this. The main thing here is this is at the end of Inquisition, and what happened with Solas. Solas was a character and a party member in Dragon Age Inquisition, and you could have played the game out in one of two ways. You either vowed to stop Solas or save him from himself. And that was the main choice that you had. And again, these choices are going to kind of reflect in our gameplay, but you don't have to do any of them. But it's important to point them out there, so that you know that they're there.
So, where were we? Oh, right. Him. Our best plan is to stop the Dreadwolf before he can perform his ritual. After following his trail across half the known world, we finally tracked him to Minrathous, capital of the Tevinter Imperium. But to find the Dreadwolf in a city this big, we need a local expert. So, naturally, our story begins where all great stories begin. With the seediest bar in town. And a missing contact.
Let's try this again. Where's Neve?
You think you can come into my bar and make demands?
Here you're introduced to the decision wheel. This is very similar stuff that you see in Mass Effect. Some people have a problem with the decision wheel in that sometimes they don't think that these synopses actually coincide perfectly with the dialogue you're about to give. This is not the full dialogue. Your character's not going to say, let's talk this out. They're going to have a conversation that is basically paraphrased as let's talk this out. Some people have a problem with this. I personally don't. I think it's just an aspect of video games. This is meant to give you a basic decision tree choice, and the icon in the middle will explain to you whether it's good, it's evil, whether it's straightforward, whether it's loving, whether it's sad, and that sort of stuff. And all of those things will impact how your character progresses and grows and changes throughout the playthrough. I will say, without giving you any direction on how you should play your game, if you're going to play this one choice out, play it I'll do more than demand. If you're a fan of these games, and you have played these games out a certain way, this introduces a character in an amazing way.
Neve is my only shot at finding the Dreadwolf. I'm not leaving until I know where she is. Be ready to talk by the time I get to you.
Darling, you're adorable.
She'd like you to stay a while.
Oh, so good.
Neve Gallus.
Dumat Plaza. The Venatori cultists took her to Dumat Plaza.
Thanks. Your friend Neve Gallus is at Dumat Plaza.
I heard. That's why you're my second in command. Although, for the record, there was probably an easier way to do that than fighting an entire bar.
I physically yelled out the first time I saw Varric pull out Bianca and and shoot that crossbow bolt. It was such an amazing way to reintroduce Varric, and like I say, Varric's a fan favorite throughout all of the game, so it was an amazing thing for me to see. So again, you can now see the icon in the middle. Your joking choices, your positive choices, your stern choices throughout the game.
What did I have to worry about? You were there watching my back.
Yeah.
Come on, Harding will be worried.
All right. Break's over.
I hope Neve's as good at finding people as you claim.
She's the best damn detective I've ever met. If she says she's got a lead on Solas, I believe her. The Archon's palace. Something must have gotten them riled up.
Okay, so there's something else that was given to you there in Harding. You're gonna meet Harding here in a little bit. Lace Harding is another throwback to Dragon Age Inquisition. Scout Harding, as she was known back then. So the basic controls for the game, and again, I'm playing this on PC with mouse and keyboard. I have done very slight customizations to the game, but mouse look, this would be your right stick on controller, and then your WASD keys, your left stick to maneuver around. So you can walk in one direction and look in a completely different direction with any of the games.
We don't want to look conspicuous. Just get out of here nice and casual. Find Neve Gallus and stop Solas.
And the game is, you can see there's a mini map in the upper right hand corner, and there's a quest icon.
Spare a coin, please.
And the game is fairly linear in these early spots, in that you're following a pathway through an area
Think you can talk him down before he starts
to get to
his big
somewhere.
ritual?
That ritual is going to tear down the veil. The only thing separating us from the Fade and an endless number of demons. I have to talk him down.
Yeah, but you can take a look at the graphics. The graphics are...
Wait! But I didn't do anything!
Get down.
Are they after us? Is it because of the bar?
Word travels fast in Minrathous.
We've got to help her.
We don't have time to get arrested, especially if we... Oh, crap.
We're too late.
The ritual started. But if we hurry, we can still stop Solas before it finishes. Let's go!
Okay, so what you just saw is the Tevinter Imperium, and the effect you just saw is the rift opening, and Solas is the one that is doing that. Okay, so you're...
Watch out!
And these are demons that are being released from the rift.
Is Solas summoning demons on purpose?
My guess is the veil is weakening, and they're slipping through the cracks.
And when the veil comes out,
And the whole world is going to look a lot like this. Come on, this way. It should get us to Harding.
Okay, there you were briefly introduced to the quick recover feature. If you get knocked down or staggered, you can press a button to quick recover.
You're safe now. Get inside and bar the door as quick as you can, okay?
thank you, miss.
Lace.
Harding, you all right?
I've been doing what I can to help. The ritual must be weakening the veil. There are a lot of scared people out here.
And a lot of demons. Haven't seen this many come through the Fade in years.
And what about you two? Are you okay?
That was a lot of demons. The Archon's palace was taking shots at us too.
Gets the blood pumping.
Have you got my gear?
Right over there. Where's Neve Gallus? Wasn't she at the meeting point?
The Venatori got to her first. They grabbed her before we arrived and paid off the bar owner to keep it quiet.
I'm not surprised our detective did something to piss off a cult of murderous blood mages, but their timing stinks. The bar owner said the Venatori took Neve to Dumont Plaza. Can you get us there, Harding?
Not a problem. I saw Dumont Plaza while I was scouting the area, and it was crawling with Venatori. Follow me.
Eyes up. We've got company.
Demon.
Okay, now this is going to introduce you to the combat tactics. Basically, with a rogue, you have light attacks, both ranged and melee. And then you have heavy attacks, both ranged and melee. Those are performed with different buttons or combinations of buttons. So a light attack is just pressing the left button, and you can chain your attacks together. So that chain can get interrupted, but if you do manage to land all of the hits in a chain, then the final attack is going to deal increased damage against it. And you'll kind of see that play out.
Here they come.
Whew, hold on. I need to take a break for a second. My keyboard is all not centered up here and everything else. So let me get back to the WASD keys here. Okay. And then you also have strong ranged attacks.
That's the last of them.
Good. Let's get to Dumont Plaza.
Which, again, if you look down on the bottom middle, you have 8 arrows. Now, you can press the right button
I don't get it.
and use those in a quick attack, or you can hold the right button to get a powerful ranged attack. Very similar to your light attack, but then if you hold shift, you get a heavy attack. Okay? There's also something that the game doesn't do a great job of telling you about, where if you hold the light attack button down, you do a quick attack to close the distance to your enemies. Okay? So shift and or holding buttons gives you access to different attacks, and these are all critical to the rogue type of gameplay. It's going to take me a while, even though I just played this game 27 hours ago, I think. It's going to take me a while to get back into the swing of knowing how to do what. I didn't dodge nearly as effectively as I normally do there, just because, again, I'm trying to get myself back into the swing of it. As I change between games, it's hard for me, with being as old as I am, to get that muscle memory back. One thing that's also part of the Dragon Age games, if you've never played them before, is crates and vases. This is almost a comical thing now in the game, where they are all over the place. Breaking them can sometimes reveal resources and that sort of stuff throughout the game. Now, in my personal playthrough, I go through and break everything, just like I search everything in the game. You certainly do not have to, and I probably will not spend a lot of time doing it in this playthrough. But one of the most effective ways to go through and break all of these is to jump and attack, because you do an AoE attack when you land, and that will break multiple at the same time. So if you are looking to do that type of stuff, think about your AoE based jumping attack to clear out multiple vases or crates at the same time as you're going through it. But as you walk around, this is your main looting mechanic. You're going to be chests and pouches and that sort of stuff that you can highlight or that you can loot are going to be highlighted. Just walk up to it, press the action key, and down in the bottom right hand corner you will see what you are looting. Gold, again, is as expected, your main currency for purchasing items and that sort of stuff. And here in the early part, you're going to find a lot of that laying around. Shift gets you into a sprint. And again, searching these little areas can often reveal pouches or items, things like that are hidden around. You're going to see me, if you're familiar with any of my other playthroughs, you know that I walk around and explore the entire map. So if that playstyle doesn't suit you, then again, I apologize. It is what it is, though. This is how I play through games. Now, the green vases all contain potions. If you can see down in the bottom left-hand corner, the R key is for my healing potions. I have 4 of them. So if I break this here, it's going to automatically go into my inventory, but since I can't hold anymore, it's going to automatically heal me up to full health. Okay? And that's what those potions do. So you can see that the Tevinter Imperium is trying to fight against the demons that are invading here. And now we get Venatori, but the Venatori are fighting against the demons as well here. And you can see the high damage of your heavy ranged attacks, and now you get another mechanic. The I'm being shot at by a ranged enemy icon, which is that dashed line that is coming out towards you. When you see that, normally ranged attacks are time-based. So as long as you're moving, when the attack comes in, you'll be able to avoid it. And I am specifically not focusing on my companions very much here. Your companions are going to be introduced a little bit later, but I will show you a little bit of how that works, kind of as a spoiler, so to speak.
We're sliding down.
Not before I search a little bit here, Varric. And you can move yourself side to side when you're sliding. Okay, now you get introduced to your skills or your abilities. This is as you level up, a selectable type of thing that allows you to use a special ability that you build up charge in as you do different things. So down at the very bottom, down below the escape button, you can see that there's a bar down there. It is filled up to the first dot. That means I have the ability now to use one of my skills. And to use your skills, not just yours, but your companions, use the tab key to do it. Okay? Now, inside tab, this is going to give you access to your companions. We don't have access to the skills of our companions right now. Otherwise, we would see their icon and their skills over here. What it allows you to do is you can change between targets using A and D, any targets that are within range, and you can pick a target and select an ability to use on it. You can then change to a different target and have one of your companions use a different skill against a different target if you would like. Or you can keep everybody focusing on the same target. You'll learn a lot more about that as we go. And then as soon as you click close on tab, it's going to execute that skill. And you can hit multiple enemies at once.
Another barrier, but it looks like Neve's work, not the Venatori's.
And if you're not familiar with how I explain some of these things, the first part of every playthrough where I'm explaining the game mechanics is just part of it. If you just say, hey, get to the hack and slash type stuff, I get that. It's much more engaging gameplay for certain people, but I tend to explain the game in more detail as we're starting out. So if there's stuff that you haven't taken advantage of, you certainly can. And that's why I tend to explain a bit of this. As we get farther through the game, that explanation will cut down and you'll be more action oriented.
Varric, hiding. Not the worst timing.
Neve, it's so good to see you. We thought the Venatori had kidnapped you.
They thought the same thing. A lot of Venatori in the city have reason to hate me. Figured I'd play along. Find out who wanted to settle the score this time. Then the sky started raining demons. So I'm back on the job.
Appreciate it. Rook, this is Neve Gallus, our local expert. She's gonna help us find Solas. Neve, meet Rook. Harding and I found her a while back. Thought we could use an expert on trouble.
Rook, like the chess piece?
One of the strongest pieces on the board, but she tends to think in straight lines.
Nice to meet you. Based on the Venatori, you've got excellent taste in enemies.
I do my best.
You said you had a lead?
I haven't seen Solas in person, but I did find hints of old magic, similar to what you get in elven ruins. I traced it to a building beneath Our Lady of Victory. That's where your man is hiding.
Then let's go, before this ritual he's doing gets any worse.
Worse, this ritual's already drawing more power than I'd expect from a dozen mages. You told me he was working alone.
I also told you he was an ancient elven god.
An elven god. Well, whatever he is, he's causing trouble in my city. Let's go.
All citizens in the canal district must remain in their homes.
So, if we do catch Solas, or the Dread Wolf, whatever he calls himself, what's the plan?
He wants to bring down the veil. Hopefully that ritual takes his full attention.
So we catch him while he's doing his ritual, so he can't fight us.
That's the hope. If it comes to a straight-up fight, we're dead.
So in the previous games, you could switch between your companion characters and basically take control of them and use their abilities, and then your character would kind of act independently. Here, your party members act independently of you entirely. However, the tab key, once we get out of the prologue here, is going to allow you to tell your companions to use their skills, or up here you'll see to attack your target or defend you against enemies attacking you and that sort of stuff. You're not able to directly take control of your party members like you used to be able to in the previous Dragon Age games. It takes a little bit of getting used to if you're used to the old games, but I think it's still an extremely viable way to go about utilizing them. It's arguably much simpler to do, even though you lose more customizable access to the employment of some of their skills and abilities. Okay, and that's what I mean by breaking items. Sometimes when you break an item, something will appear, and in this case, there's gold. So in this playthrough, I'm not going to spend my time doing it, even though I know if any of you have seen me on the previous playthroughs, you would expect me to do it. I'm not going to. If there's a particular item or something like that that I've found in my personal playthrough, then I will obviously go get it. But until that point, I'm probably not going to spend a whole lot of time just walking around picking stuff up.
We can slide down the line to get across.
I'm getting too old for this.
I will, of course, spend some time doing it.
There. That's the building I tracked Solas to.
Looks like the Venatori also found it. And then demons found them.
Okay, now if your potions are full and your health is full, the potion will just sit on the ground, waiting to be used. Most of the stuff you're going to find laying around here in the city in the prologue is just going to be gold, which is, still very, very useful. Don't get me wrong. Okay, so this introduces you to the ranged attack. We've obviously already seen this. If you tap the right button, you're going to quick fire, or you can hold it for an aim shot that deals bonus damage. Now your arrows are going to run out faster than you can, or they will run out faster than they replenish. So you're going to not be able to be 100% ranged unless you are severely limiting your DPS. So that's why the rogue character is a mixture of both. You're not really meant to be sitting at the back the entire time. Even though against small numbers of enemies, you certainly can. Against your quote-unquote boss enemies, you're just not going to be able to do enough damage with your ranged attacks to be able to sit enemies down fast enough in an encounter. Rogues are meant to be a blend of both, but you can certainly, like I say, try and play it entirely ranged. You're just going to be you're going to be quite a bit more difficult in your combat encounters as you go through it.
wait on the entrance. I can get
The other thing I really like about the Rogue is the dynamic animations for the playstyle. The strong attack approach leads into a jump attack because it raises you up off the ground at the end. So you're able to combo that strong attack there with a leaping strong attack as well afterward. The dodge ability for the Rogue has multiple different animations, which it does for everybody, but the Rogue gets something a little bit different in that if there's an enemy in your way, if I want to dodge backward and there's an enemy there, I will kind of bamf, is what we used to call it in X-Men with Nightcrawler. You kind of teleport through them to the other side, whereas everybody else has different animations for doing that. I really like the very, very dynamic, fast-paced look of how the Rogue engages in melee. I really enjoy it, even though I'm not the best melee fighter by far. Like I say, my Twitch skills are 20 years, maybe 30 years in the past. I still enjoy that type of playstyle.
Venatori. They must have tracked the magic to this building as well.
And then the demons found them.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer bunch.
Now, the Venatori, and I'm going to go heal up back here real quick. The Venatori are not officially recognized by the Tevinter Imperium. But the Venatori are kind of like a secret police force, so to speak. Again, not completely sanctioned by the Venatori, but nevertheless, they have an extraordinary amount of power inside the Tevinter Imperium.
How long he's been here.
Some of this looks ancient.
Solas has been around longer than Minrathous itself.
Now you're going to start getting introductions to a little bit of the lore here as we go, and the blight and things that have happened in the past through some of these paintings that you're going to see. A lot of that is going to be explained a little later.
Broken chains. Solas is freeing slaves.
Solas hates slavery. One of the few things we actually agreed on.
He said the other elven gods were tyrants who oppressed his people. He was trying to help them.
What do you see?
No sign of Solas. Just a big glowing window or mirror or something.
Well, that sounds ominous.
And they're talking about looking through here. The graphics are really, really good. I'm obviously playing this on a pretty good graphics card. It's a 3080 Ti. Everything is set to ultra settings right now, and I'm capping at 60 FPS, but still getting really good results out of it.
Ancient elves doing something to a dragon, I think.
Yeah. Trying to control it, maybe?
Solas said the other elven gods were evil. If they were binding dragons, he was right about that much at least.
You're going to learn a little bit more about this, but the elven gods were binding dragons to be able to take dragon form themselves. Way back in the history of these games, before any of the games actually took place. And you're going to learn a little bit more about that as we go through this one.
More demons.
And again, I'm kind of off the beaten path here a little bit from the quest marker. Just kind of showing you other things to look at. Because if you go down there and you go to unlock the door, you won't be able to. You have to activate the lever to be able to do it.
Sounds like that opens something below.
Then let's have a look.
There isn't any fall damage that I'm aware of, though you can fall out of the world and be teleported back into it, so to speak. So be careful when you're walking across bridges and that sort of stuff. Find our first treasure chest. Now the treasure chests come in 4 different types, and you'll kind of see the differences between them as we go. This is the smallest version of them. You start to learn a little bit of some throwbacks here. The loot is a throwback. This is again back to Solas and the previous games, and who he was and what he did. Again, some of the things are, like I say, homages to the previous game, and it's really cool for those of us who have played them previously to see. The wolves everywhere plays into his Dreadwolf moniker that he picked up.
This the big glowing window you saw earlier, Rook?
It's called an alluvian. They're elven and very old.
It acts like a doorway from one place to another. Solas uses them to get around quickly.
He must have gone through it.
And I will say the good thing about these games is that you don't have to be right on top of something to find it. If you get close enough, it will highlight it, which makes searching things a little easier, except of course when you're breaking crates like I'm not going to do throughout this one.
Well, we're not in Manrathas anymore.
I know these trees. This is Arlathan Forest.
And there's your ritual. The power involved. I've never seen anything like it.
The tremors are getting worse.
And we've got demons.
Okay, now again, I'm going to start this off with static strikes. I'm going to focus on the one in the middle because it does have an AoE or a multiple target focus around the ones that you pick. It's in your best interest to use your skills when you have them, at least keeping one in reserve. Unless you know you're going into a boss fight, you don't want to just sit there and have your skills stay topped up all of the time. Those skills are there to be used. So utilize them whenever you get the chance.
Does it feel like those tremors are getting worse?
Keep moving and try not to think about it.
Just doing a little bit of exploring and running around and that sort of stuff while we move through this. Like I say, the game is fairly linear here in the early parts of it. And you'll tend to see me utilize the same combat tactics quite a bit. I tend to open things up and closing the distance, if I'm going to close the distance, with that button down light attack. Which I chain then into a jumping attack It deals a good amount of damage at the start, but also closes the distance, which is important. If I'm going to keep my distance against a larger boss enemy, then I'll definitely start out with the bow until I run out of arrows, and then I'll move to melee range.
Tremors every time one of those big crystals at the ritual site lights up.
Not many of them left to light. Might want to hurry.
Headshots are criticals, and they do more damage. So try and focus on those if you can. If you can't, deal as much damage as you can. So this gives you another way to use your abilities instead of using the tab key. You can use your abilities by pressing 1, 2, 3, and eventually 4 on your number pad. On the controller, there is, I think it's the D-pad, that uses those abilities. I tend to utilize the tab key more just because it gives me better control over which targets are getting which abilities applied to them, but you can certainly use those quick keys, especially for things like your companions giving you bonus damage or applying time warp or something which slows enemies down. You don't necessarily need to target an enemy for those to take effect, so you can hit those quick keys to apply that status effect to you and then propagate the fight how you want after that. I tend to, again, just focus on the tab key. It gives me a little break, lets me strategize a little bit as we're going through things. And that is a knocking an enemy out of the map attack. Your strong attacks at the end of a light attack chain, or your shift and holding down the button strong attacks push enemies back. If they are near a ledge, you can push that enemy off the ledge and kill them. Since looting enemies like that isn't a thing, do that as much as you can. Force them up against a ledge or a cliff and push them off. There's actually an achievement in the game for doing that. You will very quickly get it. I think it's only 5 enemies or something like that. So you will very, very quickly get that achievement. But it is a way to, even with fairly powerful enemies, to force them into a situation where they're just basically one-shot by being killed by fall damage, is basically what it is. Oh, and this is a BioWare thing that they love to do. Whenever you jump off of a high place, always turn around and look behind you. BioWare, every developer has their own ways of doing things. BioWare has a thing where they love to hide things behind you. Just like Baldur's Gate 3 loved to hide things above you because of the verticality in the game. BioWare seems to love to hide things behind you. So if you jump down from somewhere high, always turn around and look behind you just to make sure you're not missing a secret passage or something back behind you.
Nothing compared to how many will get if Solas finishes this ritual.
That's right, Philip. Check behind the waterfalls. Now we're going to get our first boss fight. Okay, now for boss fights, you need to look at a couple of different things. So the Pride Demon enemy up there at the top has two things. There's a barrier, which is the top bar, which is a magical shield, basically, and that can regenerate. Then you have the bottom bar, which is armor, which does not regenerate for the most part. There are some enemies that do regenerate armor, but for the most part it does not regenerate. And then underneath the armor bar, once you've removed it, will be a red bar that is their health. Okay, this isn't just boss enemies. We've seen certain enemies that have either only barriers or only armor already in the game. Some of them have even had a combination of both. But for boss enemies especially, pay attention to what they have up there, because right now it's not going to matter much. But when you get companions, you can chain together combos that are especially effective against barriers and or armor to be able to shred either one of those two faster to get to the red health bar, which is the important part of any enemy. Very similar, like Philip mentioned earlier, to how Mass Effect combat works with enemies. Barriers and armor, having weapons or abilities to be able to take those out, gets you down to the meat of the enemy a lot faster. Okay, now this enemy here is going to have a couple of different types of attacks. We are going to get in close when we do this. The enemy is also going to have an AoE type of attack where we are constantly going to want to be moving to get out of it. And they don't necessarily have a targeted ranged attack, so to speak. So when we get the opportunity, we will try and use our bow, but most of this is going to be up close and personal as we go. You can see right now down at the bottom, my static strikes, he's out of range. He's too far away. So I'm going to exit out of this. And I walked right into the first one. Okay, now here, I'm going to apply static strikes and weaken him.
Watch the lightning.
Okay, when he lands a heavy attack, you're going to get that quick recover option.
It's a pride demon. Damn thing probably sensed Solas's ego.
Everyone all right?
Good enough. Let's get to Solas.
Take it from here.
Are you sure?
Positive. You three just keep the demons off me while I talk to him.
Varric, Solas isn't gonna stop just because an old friend asks nicely.
Solas needs someone to sell him another option, to help him justify changing his mind.
We've got you back. If anyone can get through to him, you can.
Thanks, Rook. Whatever else he is, he's my friend. And if he won't listen to me, then he'll hear from Bianca.
More demons!
Take care of the team for me. Hey, Chuckles. Hope I'm not interrupting.
Let's buy him some time.
I hope Varric is getting through to Solas. Better talk fast. We can't hold these demons
And if you haven't noticed already, the white and yellow bar above your head that pops up indicates when an attack is incoming.
The veil is a wound inflicted upon this world. It must be healed.
By drowning the world in demons?
I have taken precautions to minimize the damage, Varric.
Minimize the... People are dying right now. You need to listen. Please.
People are always dying. It is what they do.
Shit. We need a better plan.
Do you want me to take the shot?
Won't work. He's too powerful.
What if we disrupt the ritual?
How?
See those statues? If we break the scaffolding holding that one up, the whole thing will come down on Solas.
It's risky. Interrupting a ritual of this scale will have consequences.
And what about the demons? Varric needs us to hold them off.
Right, you two stay here. I'll bring down the statue.
What? No. Stepping into all that raw magic is suicide.
The storm could tear you apart.
Anyone got a better idea?
Fine, but you'll need backup. I'm with you.
I'm a mage. I'll go.
Either way, someone needs to stay back and deal with the demons.
This does have a direct choice in the game, but it's fairly minor.
Let's go, Neve. Harding, keep the demons busy.
Good luck.
And I got chills when I saw Bianca get destroyed. Yeah, and always looking behind me.
This is it!
We need to bring down the scaffolding.
Why tear down the veil, knowing all the lives it'll cost?
We shared a journey years ago. Do you believe that I would do this if there was some other better option?
The pillar's weak, but...
It isn't falling! We need to push it!
Right!
Together! Now!
You came a long way and made a valiant effort, Varric, but this story does not end with my downfall.
Oh. Oh.
Varric! Varric! Oh no, no, no! Neve!
I still get chills seeing this, even though I've seen it before. And there's the prologue over. Just like the Baldur's Gate 3 prologue, I got chills multiple times through all of that.
You have no idea what you have done.
This is the Fade.
Solas. I know what I did. I stopped you from destroying the world.
I was not destroying the world. When you disrupted my ritual, the magical energies pulled me here, into the Fade.
Okay, so that's why you're here. But why am I here?
Your physical body is unconscious, but you shed a few drops of blood at the ritual site. Enough for a tenuous connection.
Blood magic?
Firstly, I abhor the use of blood magic. Secondly, had I the power to control you, I would already have used it.
Alright, you brought me here to talk. What are we talking about?
The Evanurus, or as you would call them, the Elven Gods. The creatures that escaped. In ancient times, they ruled the elves, but that was not enough. They sought not just to be obeyed, but to be worshipped. When I rebelled, they drew on the horrific magic of the Blight, corrupting all they saw until I trapped them. Thanks to you, though, I am now trapped, and the blighted Elven Gods walk free.
Right, you were innocently doing nothing when we came along.
The prison in which I had trapped them had begun to crumble. I was moving them to another.
So you weren't tearing down the veil and drowning the world in demons and wild magic?
I had a plan.
Varric always said you'd have a big explanation for why none of this was your fault.
Varric?
Yeah, he said that's your style. Never quite lies, clever half-truths that let you convince yourself you're doing the right thing. He tried to talk to you anyway, and now he's hurt.
Varric is quite practiced at shading the truth himself.
So those things that got out, you said they were gods?
They said they were gods. Blighted, tyrannical, sadistic gods. It took all my power to imprison them millennia ago. but I am certain you will be fine.
How bad are we talking here?
Their power outstripped my own even before they embraced the corruption of the Blight.
But you did imprison them.
Through trickery. I also had a ritual dagger of pure lyrium, and a network of mirrors to take me from the Lighthouse across the world.
I don't have either of those.
Well then, I expect you will be busy. Elganan and Gillenane are your problem to solve. This is your responsibility now.
Solas is a very complicated character.
Why tear down the veil? Listen.
You have no idea what you have done. This is your responsibility now.
Well, look who's still with us.
Varric, you're okay. But I saw Solas stab you. You fell.
Trust me, kid. I've had worse. It'll take more than a flesh wound to stop me. Don't think I'll be making it out to the field anytime soon, though.
What happened?
I did my best to talk sense into Solas, but of course, he wasn't listening. He never does.
The plan did go a little wrong.
Yeah. Harding got everyone out. By the skin of her teeth, mostly. Before you start worrying, Neve will be fine. She's apparently a lot tougher than both of us put together. Or, at least, she's a lot tougher than me.
I should have come up with a better plan. I should have...
You worked with what you had. And you succeeded, by the way. World isn't drowning in demons.
It isn't over, though. We trapped Solas in the Fade, but something else got out. Something...
Rook, you've got this. I've seen your work. Like your impulsive rescue of those captives from the Antam slavers. There's a reason I dragged you into this whole Solas mess. You're clever, adaptable, and you don't know when to quit.
Rook, look who's awake. I've been searching the place for lyrium potions. Didn't mean to intrude.
Not at all. I was just about to have a look around.
Oh, be careful if you go outside, Rook. It is a long way down. The Alluvian led us into something, and it's in the Fade. Because that's what we needed. The dream world.
Then I really need to look around.
Can't hurt, in theory. And we need to talk about our next move. Maybe find Harding? She went outside somewhere. There's a table in the central area here. I'll meet you both there.
Go ahead, Rook. Me, I need to sleep. See you later, kid.
So as I was saying, Solas is a complicated character. He's more of an anti-hero, if you know the definition of the term. A character who does bad things in search of a goal that they feel is righteous and that is ultimately of a benefit to everybody. But their means of getting there are not traditionally good aligned. You're going to see that a lot more in this than we saw in Inquisition, even though the ending of Inquisition really brought that into focus as well. A very, very complicated character for us to have an interaction with. So, if there's a dialogue bubble, that means that you can talk to them.
I wish I could be out there with you, Rook. Just be careful, all right?
Sometimes there will be full conversations to be had, sometimes there won't. This is the Mirror of Transformation to allow you to change your appearance of your character. It's good to see that more games are starting to adopt something like this, even though it did take Baldur's Gate 3 a couple of patches to be able to implement something like it, where you're able to change your appearance whenever you want. That's a good thing. More choice is always a good thing. This is a special chest that is here because I have the deluxe edition of the game. I'm going to open it up and you're going to see a bunch of things pop up down on the bottom right. These are all cosmetics that are able to be applied. I'm going to apply some of them, but for now I'm just going to let them scroll up as I continue to kind of explore the rest of this area. This is the Lighthouse. The Lighthouse is your base of operations, so to speak. And as you go along, there will be ways to expand your base of operations and open up new areas of it as we go. Okay, so there is a codex, and the codex, if you open it up, will give you an introduction to the Lighthouse. And this is the codex, and the library is all about the lore of the Dragon Age universe. If you've never played it before, this really adds a lot of depth to your playthrough. You may not understand some of the attitudes that characters have towards other groups in the game until you read some of this. And some of your codex entries will also give you clues into how to do certain things or open up secrets throughout the world, and here in the Lighthouse as well. So again, you can see some blocked off areas that we do not have access to right now. We're not able to use any of our weapons or anything like that. We can still jump, though, down here. And again, fairly ramshackle. We have a couple of gateway-looking things that look to be closed off. And the door plaque here gives you a clue. 3 meetings, face-to-face, under the sky. Okay, and that's going to come in to play here in a little bit. This side does not have a missive on it or a plaque to read. And the main rest of the library is going to be out here. We came down from up there. There is a lower level as well. Which right now has an alluvian in it. Okay, and here you can open up the codex and learn about, this is a special alluvian. This is what Solas alluded to, a bit of alliteration there, when he said he had an alluvian that he could use to travel throughout the world. And this is it. Normally alluvians are portals that are linked to another alluvian, and they just travel between the two. This one is special in that you can use it to go multiple places. Now, this is a way that, utilizing in the future these controls down here at the bottom, we can change where this alluvian will go. We don't have access to it right now, though.
Whoa.
Rook, you're awake. And we're...
In the Fade.
This is where people come when they dream, but dwarves don't dream. And somehow I'm here.
Yeah, it's unreal. Neve thought we should talk about what to do next.
We should. But maybe look around a little. We might be here a while.
And now we have leveled up, and we can press K to view our skill tree. Now, the skill tree, you can zoom in on any particular area, but you don't have to. You can navigate to any area just by dragging around and looking. So we have 3 points that are available to us here. And you can reset and refund your points at any time you want. So none of these choices are stuck in stone, which I really, really like about this game. So you could actually customize your skills to a particular boss fight that you're about to have, if you want to go down that path. At the end of the day, though, your skills are really tending to leading you toward your specialization. Okay? And again, like I said earlier about Veil Rangers, the Veil Ranger specialization is your bow-specific specialization. Now, focusing on this, again, is going to empower your ranged attacks, but you're not going to be able to fully propagate an encounter just using your ranged attacks. You don't have enough arrows for that, even though you will have the opportunity throughout the skill tree to increase the number of arrows and the rejuvenation rate of those arrows as you go. The only way to make this a true bow playstyle viable without where you don't have to do anything else is to max out everything in this skill tree. And that means it's just going to take a while for you to get there. But you can certainly do it. It's just, like I say, going to be a little bit longer and a little bit harder in the early game until you start getting those skills leveled up, because you just don't have enough arrows or enough power in those arrows to do a lot of stuff. Your duelist is your upfront and close melee specialty, and this is what Antivan Crows specialize in. You are your blade dancers. You are moving in with dual daggers or swords, and you are punishing the enemy up close. The Saboteur is kind of your trickster class. They use explosives and specialty contraptions. In this case, you're seeing a gun type or a firearm type of weapon summoned that allows you to do various things. There's a turret that's being thrown out. So this is, again, more of an AoE control-based type of specialization, whereas your duelist is very one-target focused for the most part, and your ranger can be a combination of both. So you're really working toward a specialization to get your skills up. Now, none of your skills directly connect right to a specialization. You will always come toward an intermediate ability. So burst is your high damage weapon attacks against single, sometimes multiple enemies. Sustain is your defensive abilities and your buffs to yourself to help you sustain in combat longer. And control is more of your debuffing and or weak point type of intermediate specialization. So you're gonna, if you've chosen the duelist specialization, which I'm going to either pick to go through sustain or burst. Burst in this case would be more of your glass cannon type of build, whereas sustain would be more of your higher health and ability to survive longer build. And that kind of leads me into the way that I'm going. I'm not going to be great at playing the glass cannon build. I'm just not. Like I say, I'm getting old. My Twitch skills are not there. Sometimes the adrenaline gets flowing and I finger fumble a bunch of stuff. But the burst duelist is going to be one of the highest damage specializations you can do here in this class. And I just don't think I'm equipped as good to do it. So I'm gonna progress through the sustain tree first before I make my way into the Antivan Crow area to make it toward the duelist specialization. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to try and head up here. So I either have Riposte, and these skills are broken into passive, which is always active, a trait that is dependent upon something else to do, in this case on a defend, and an active trait, which is your abilities that we've talked about before, which you have to specifically trigger. So here, both of these are semi-passive. So evasive maneuvers, use your speed to launch a powerful attack from an extended dodge. An extended dodge, and you can see my keybinds there. On the side of my mouse, I have two buttons. The top button is my dodge. If you press dodge twice, you dodge an extended, a much further distance. Okay? What evasive maneuvers allows you to do is once you've done an extended dodge, your next attack is going to be a much more powerful attack following that up. It also applies recovering from being knocked down. So you can, once you've been knocked down, your quick recover is to hit the dodge key. If you do that twice, then you're going to apply the recovering effect after you've done that. So the other one is Riposte. After a successful defend or a block, you can now launch a powerful counterattack. I don't defend in my playstyle. I dodge. So evasive maneuvers is going to be much better for me. That's going to move me up here to a purely passive ability. I gain precision after a successful defend. It's not going to apply to me very much. I very rarely, if ever, block, but it is there. And now I have my next ability in my tree, which is Pilfer. So here, whenever you use this ability, you're going to swipe a potion. Remember, that's a healing potion when you slice up an enemy. So it's a way to gain an additional healing potion. That's what the sustain portion of this is. It also applies bleed, and the potion is automatically consumed after being stolen, so it doesn't get stocked up. So you only want to use this when you are down on health, and you can steal a potion and immediately use it. The other thing it does is it detonates Overwhelmed. We're going to learn about this more coming up here in a little bit in a tutorial in how combos work. But when we get into that, we'll talk more about what that does. Okay, and then you're going to open up to, when I get more points, of different ways to go as I go through this. Okay, now that ability that I have selected in there, we will see it when I have the opportunity to do some character customizations and that sort of stuff here in a little bit. So looking at our map, okay, we can see that just very similar to Mass Effect, every companion character has a location where they will tend to be. And if you want to go visit them, you go to their location and you visit them. The clock here, and there's probably going to be a tooltip that pops up, indicates that this is a time-sensitive dialogue, meaning if you leave the library before you have it, this dialogue will not happen again. It's kind of the icon above the head that lets you know you need to go talk to that companion before you leave your camp, in this case, the Lighthouse. So we're going to make sure we talk to both Harding and Neve before we leave here. And we will start that out kind of here by working my way around. I came in here. We're going to go look behind us, as we always do, by heading up top here. And there's a chest. And now you see our first crafting material. That's common ore that we picked up. Here you can also see that we have an option to read here. To enter the library passage, 3 pairings must meet face to face. You can see with the way it's facing. If you look around for another statue, there's one way over there. So let's point this to face that direction. Okay. And now when we get over to that statue, we're going to turn it to face this way. But first, let's go explore around a little bit. Got 2 more statues right here. These are easy to have them face each other. And when you do it, you will see the wisps. And another chest. Valuable items. We're going to learn more about what valuable items do as we progress through this. You can sell them, but certain valuable items are also going to be useful for companions. And you kind of find out here what the Lighthouse is. This was a base to rebel against events that were happening in previous games. So we're going to learn more about this as we go. The Lighthouse should be a fairly familiar concept to those of us who have been through previous games. So now we're going to head over here. And we're going to just kind of explore this systematically by going to the right. We're going to kind of look around the outside. You can see there's a pathway out here. And that's why you always look at your mini-map and follow the areas that look unexplored.
It wasn't supposed to go this way. What do we do now? What do we do?
Hoarding?
Oh, hey, Rook. How's it going?
Did you ever find places like this chasing Solas with Varric?
Not exactly. But with Solas, it was always about the Fade, or the Veil, or some other in-between place. Varric always hated it, though. At least this place feels different. Maybe safer?
So, you have plants. Greenery's nice, isn't it?
Green? Most of these are dead. Figures. Maybe I'll clear them out. Give me something to do. I hate sitting around. We shouldn't be sitting around. We were going to go back through the Alluvion, right? Let's start with that. As soon as we can.
You know you can take some time to just...
Now you sound like Varric. Varric and I started this. And I can't stop. Not now. Don't ask me to. So, come get me when you're ready to go. All right?
And just like in other games, you're going to be able to start developing relationships with your companions. And those will change over time as you make different selections in your choices as you go through. So now we're going to head up to our right. And again, I'm just exploring this counterclockwise for the most part. Looking out here, nothing over here. Here's the statue we saw from across the way.
That's the second. One more to go.
And there's the other statue on the far side over there. So these two are now connected. Here's Imperial Weave, again a common crafting material. and the codex notes on a caretaker. So there are beings in the crossroads. That's basically what this is. And there's a caretaker here. We don't know a lot more about it than that, but we're slowly uncovering what this library is and what it's for. Yeah, Philip, sometimes you have to sit back and look at your surroundings to figure out even the context behind what a puzzle's going to offer you. The three gazes things comment was kind of the clue for me. Or the things that have to face each other comment was the clue for me. That kind of led me to the fact that I need to be looking for something that I can turn and look at each other. And then when I did, once I found the first one up there, up top, and then the two right next to it, then it became fairly easy to work out what it is.
Wisps. Figures are in the fate, but I swear they're following me.
You alright?
Strange place you've fallen into, but I'll work with it. You know me.
Do I?
I know Varric wanted you for the job. You know the same about me.
I made a call that got you injured right after we met.
I'll be fine. You trusted me for the job, and I delivered. That's what counts. If we're stuck in this, let's hope you can trust me again.
You have now your first opportunity to begin to form a romantic type of relationship with a character. You're very familiar with this through Mass Effect and how it works the exact same way that it did there. For me, it's probably a little bit premature at this point for me to figure out who I want to start developing a romantic relationship with. I haven't even met all of my companions yet to figure that out. And I prefer not to break somebody's heart, so to speak, later on if I've gotten into something earlier. But this is an opportunity for you to start doing that. Whenever you see that icon, that's what it's meant to be.
It's not that I don't, I'm sorry you got hurt. It was my call, and what if...
It happens again? Or to someone else? I don't know. That's the raw deal we get.
Right. You take a lot of notes. What about?
Lately, what we know, or knew, before Solas changed the game.
And it's...
Not much. I'm sure Lace would hate to hear that, but one step at a time.
Okay, so step one is figure out what we're chasing.
Right. And the 20 other questions that need answers...
That's step two?
I can see why Varric brought you on.
We've just got to start somewhere.
Okay, so now we've kind of opened up Neve's area here. So if we continue exploring around our last little area as we move counterclockwise is this area here, the workshop. And now you can see that we have our third set of statues. So our second statue's there. And we'll walk around the far side over here just to check. You know, I've actually never looked back there. Nothing back there, though. And yes, you can fall off of these. Yes, you will be teleported right back up. And this area down here where the statue is again part of the verticality here that's part of this game. Okay, divine imperatives. Again, you can read here, the helm of the Solar is destroyed. Elgernan's favorite torture is over. Too many legend agents have been rescued with their minds burnt out. This gets you, again, a little more idea about what this is. For our Wolf Lord, who put so much of himself into his creation. So now you're kind of learning a little bit about what the Lighthouse was for. When Solas was imprisoning the previous Evanaris, this is where his rebellion against the elven gods started, was here at the Lighthouse. And you're learning about the events that these people, his allies, went through while they were attempting to do that.
Okay, that did something.
Okay, and now that that has been completed, we can head back into the main area, and we should have a new area that's opened up. Now we can see that this area is lit up. And we enter the music room. So, Memories of a Duet is, again, a little bit more of kind of backstory that we're going to learn more about. This area, remember, is all about Solas and getting you some history of who he is as the anti-hero that we talked about previously. We got a common material and a lot of gold out of that. You can see there's probably other ways, other passages that can be opened up, which we will be doing as we go through this. Okay, and that finishes off this room. So we're pretty much done now exploring the Lighthouse. So now we need to gather our team at the library table here.
So, we stopped the ritual.
And Varric paid the price.
Hey, Varric made his choice to go talk with Solas. He knew the risks, we all did.
And now Solas is gone. And we're here. Wherever here is. Besides in the Fade.
Solas called it the Lighthouse.
He did? When?
Sorry, it was while I was unconscious. Solas appeared in my dream.
Really? I'm glad you're all right.
From what I saw, he's trapped in the Fade now. Not here, but some kind of prison.
You're sure that wasn't just a dream? It's a reasonable reaction.
Solas can speak with people in their dreams. Even kill them.
He said our connection wasn't strong enough for him to do that. He could only reach me because I bled at the ritual site when I got banged up.
So Solas is using blood magic, like any normal mage would to play with your mind.
But he's not a normal mage, like I told you. He's an elven god.
Putting together a nice ritual doesn't make him a god.
Here's a dialogue option because of my background. This is because I am an elf, and these are elven gods that we are dealing with.
The gods of my people were incredibly powerful. I don't mean they were powerful like a skilled mage. I mean they destroyed entire cities. They shattered mountains. So no, they might not literally be gods, but they're a lot worse than whatever you're thinking.
Alright, well, we've stopped the ritual and there doesn't seem to be an immediate danger. For now. You're certain Solas can't use blood magic to affect your mind?
I'm not certain of anything, but we're not out of danger.
What do you mean?
Solas had two of the other elven gods imprisoned. When he got trapped, they escaped.
So those things we saw come out of the Fade when the ritual went wild, those are...
Elgarnan and Gillinane, two of the ancient elven gods that Solas rebelled against. When I talked with Solas, he was scared of them. He said they were horrific tyrants.
Tyrants so powerful, elven history remembers them as gods.
Solas says Elganon and Gillenane drew on the Blight for power and became corrupted. That was when he imprisoned them.
So instead of one god running around, we have two. And they're not just powerful, they're blighted.
We need to get out there and stop them.
Just like that. We're down a man without Varric. We can't just rush in.
I know you're hurt, Neve, but the rest of us need to do something.
I'll be ready to fight when it's time, but we need to investigate, then figure out what we're dealing with.
And how many more people will get hurt, get killed, while we spend time investigating?
And here again is a branch choice. You know me, I'm always more about taking my time and figuring out what we're dealing with and going after it.
If Elganon and Gillenane are worse than Solas, we can't go in blind. We need to know what they can do and what they want.
But we only have Solas's word about all of this.
Then let's go investigate for ourselves. We find out what we're dealing with, and then we take our shot.
Fine. The Illuvian led us here instead of back to Minrathous.
Let's hope it goes back to the ritual site. Maybe we can find some clues at the scene of the crime.
Neve, are you okay to go?
It's a headache. I've worked with worse.
All right then. Let's get back to the ritual site.
The Illuvian has its own special room. It's just down the stairs.
Okay, before we go, we're going to head upstairs real quick. So again, just wanted to show you that, again, inside the mirror here, you can completely customize your character again from scratch. So this is, again, something I'm really, really happy to see that they've been putting into more and more games. So if you're not happy with your selection, you can now just change it as opposed to locking it behind gold like it was back in Skyrim, or behind an NPC that you have to unlock as it was behind Baldur's Gate 3. Some ways are, like I say, offering more choice to people is always a good thing. The chest here, for me, is now the wardrobe. If I click on it, you're now able to apply cosmetics to all of your gear that have nothing to do with the stats of your gear. It does not change the weapon that you have. All it does is change the appearance. Now, because I have the deluxe edition, I can now change the appearance of that weapon. It does not change the weapon. All it does is change the appearance of it. Okay, I don't believe there's anything for the offhand. The bow, I have a change for. The armor, I have a bunch of different choices. The mantle here, this goes back to Dragon Age Inquisition and the 3 different classes, the rogue, the fighter, and the mage. And this is the current games set. So the rogue here, the fighter, and the mage. So I'm going to select the rogue option, and then you have your camp appearance, so to speak, and then the appearance that you came with. Okay, and you can do this for all of your characters. And since I have a cool looking fit, might as well change it out. I will say Neve has some really cool armor already, but we'll change it out to this one as well. And as you gain characters, there's more things in that list that popped up down on the bottom right corner when I opened it up that apply to all of the different companions that you're going to have. So you can give everybody a similar look as you go through this. Okay, so now let's head down to the Illuvian room.
For all we know, there's a dozen demons waiting on the other side of that Illuvian.
If it even takes us back to Arlathan.
Neve, you sure you're up for this?
Don't worry about me. Shall we?
Let's do this.
It's quiet. Well, isn't that a surprise?
There's the ritual site. But if the gods really did get out, they're not here anymore.
Right, let's take a look around and see if we can find...
Strife? Irlin? It's me, Lace Harding.
Harding? What are you doing back in Arlathan?
It's complicated.
I can see that.
Rook, Neve, this is Strife and Irlin. Varric and I met them when we first started hunting down Solas. They're veil jumpers, experts in ancient elven magic.
Hardly experts. I should have been able to shut that artifact down. I'm sorry, Tarith.
It's not your fault. Since the sky ripped open, the magic's been surging. Bunch of artifacts that had been dormant for centuries started coming alive. This is because of Finn Harel's, Solas's ritual, isn't it? You all were supposed to stop him.
We did stop him. The sky's not pulling itself apart anymore, is it?
But
it didn't go as cleanly as we hoped. Solas got pulled into the Fade and two somethings got pulled out. Or someones, I mean. Two of the Evanuris, Elganan and Gillinane.
Mathalanast.
the elven gods of old, the Evanuris.
If they truly have returned,
Then things just got a whole lot worse.
Okay, just a little backstory. Strife and Irlin are characters in Dragon Age Tevinter Nights, which is a series. It's a book. It's a series of short stories that took place in this universe. So again, this game has a lot of homages and throwbacks to not just the games, but as I mentioned earlier, all of the things, mobile games, comic books, short films, and that sort of stuff that all took place in this universe. There's a lot of that they've drawn together, and if you're a fan of all of this, it's amazing to see that they brought all of this together.
Anything you can tell us about these gods?
Solas might be a bastard, but compared to the Avenurus, let's just say they weren't known for being kind rulers.
There's a reason Solas led a rebellion against the Avenurus, and a reason he imprisoned them.
But now they've escaped.
Tareth is in bad shape. We need to get him back to the camp.
We've still got dozens of Veil Jumpers unaccounted for.
How can we help?
We need to find Bellara Lute. She's the best there is at working with our ancient artifacts.
And also at blowing them up.
She was off looking for another artifact before this ritual shook everything loose. If anyone can get a handle on all this wild magic and the artifacts it's setting off, it'll be her.
Right. You get your friend back to your camp and... we'll find Bellara.
Neve, you're injured. Stay here with the Veil Jumpers.
It's a headache. I'll be fine.
I know you want to help, but we don't know what we'll face out there, and you're in no condition to fight.
All right. Just watch your backs.
We'll meet you back at the Veil Jumper camp. It's just south of here.
Bellara's out near some elven ruins to the west. At least she was 3 days ago. I'd start your search there.
Good luck, Rook. And thank you.
So you're going to be forced to leave whatever injured companion it was behind at this point, and there's a reason for that. That's to open up a spot in your party organization right now for what you're going to find after you make your way through, or as you make your way through the Arlathan forest.
Is it me, or is there something strange about this fog?
It all feels a little off. Like everything shifted a little bit.
And we haven't shown it before, but your journal is your quest journal. And it shows your main, this icon indicates it's a main storyline quest. Your others are quests that lead you through that as a subset of it. And this is one of them. So we just need to search the area. This one is tracked. As you get multiple ones, you can track different quests here in the log. And always, as we do, we go search behind us, because BioWare loves to do that.
Is that suit of armor moving?
Okay, and again, you can now see something with armor here. Oh, and I hit a tree when I dodged.
Where'd you come from? Bellara? Bellara Lute. Strife and Earlin sent us to find you.
Who are you, exactly?
Call me Rook.
Lace Harding.
Protocol is to wait a full week before they send anyone out to look for me. I've only been gone 3 days.
Well, the situation's changed. For the worse, unfortunately. Our gods, Elganon and Gillinane, they've escaped from Fen'Harel's prison. And by all accounts, they want to destroy the world.
Oh, yes, that is very much for the worse. Okay, wait. I need a second.
It's a lot to take in.
It does sort of explain a few things, though.
Like what?
The surge of raw magic in the area. These artifacts started waking up a while ago, but in fits and starts. One here, a couple there. Then, a couple of days ago, the sky split open. And now, raw magic. Thick as fog. Only a god, or gods, could have done that. There's something kind of exciting about it. And dangerous. Really dangerous. Dangerous enough that I was gonna head back to the Veil Jumper camp, but...
But what?
See that shimmer? That's a veil bubble. It's separating us from the rest of the real world, so to speak. You can only pass through it one way. Once you're in, you can't get out.
I think I prefer to stay in one piece, yeah.
Right, me too. But I think I can find a way out. A bubble like that? There has to be something at the center that's generating it. Something powerful. If we can find it and remove it safely, I mean, the bubble itself should collapse.
And then we're back in reality?
I really, really hope so.
Well then, let's get going.
Okay, before we get going, now we have Bellara in the party, and that's why Neve was left. We're going to open up our skill tree, and we still don't have access to any of that. Okay, so we'll get it. We'll have, the game is opening up various aspects of itself as we progress through it here. So again, making my way backwards.
Someone made camp all the way out here?
We've got camps all over Arlathan. Veil jumpers do, I mean. Never really know
So,
when or
flawless
where the magic's
crystals,
gonna start going wild.
again, crafting material. Water doesn't hurt you. And as Philip mentioned earlier, checking behind the waterfalls, right? Just to be on the safe side.
I've been trying to get to the artifact at the center of the bubble, but these magical constructs keep getting in the way.
We've handled our share of demons. A few dozen more shouldn't be a problem.
Spirits, not demons. They're animating those suits of armor. The armor's attuned to the artifact to protect it from threats.
Threats like us, I'm guessing.
Okay, so we'll be making our way around here and exploring as we go. And we will meet up with some enemies as we go. And again, you can always watch for these branches, which are your way to cross over into other areas. You don't have to worry about falling off of them. Once you're on them, you're stuck on them. Okay, some blacksmith tools. Again, you're going to find out more about a lot of these valuable items a little bit later once we get to a camp and or a location where we can interact with them or sell them.
That's the edge of the bubble. Can't pass through it. We need to shut down the artifact first.
Okay, we see we got a chest up there. There's no way to get there from this side, but something to catalog. Keep in the back of your head, because we're going to have to go find it at some point, and we might have a way to find it over here.
Is that water just swirling into the air?
We call that kind the whirlpool. The anomaly, I mean. Never seen one this size, though.
Okay, so we'll make our way over here, and here's a ladder. Now, ladders come in two different types. They're always going to be shown on your map, no matter which type they are, but the first type is one that is climbable from either direction, which is what this one is. There are others that you have to activate first by going up to the top, and then it will drop it down on the other side, allowing you to get to that area basically as a shortcut later on. And I just can't help myself occasionally. I need to break some boxes, so sorry, you get to put up with it. Construct broke my leg. Verdun took a blade to the gut. We can hear them above us on the bridge. Okay, so that kind of gives you a clue about what's coming, or what we're going to encounter. So now we've explored this bottom area, we'll head back up where the quest marker is. Head up to the top. And as the clue suggested, we're probably going to get into a fight up here. So that's where we need to go over there. We're going to explore the other areas around it first. Okay, and this is back down where we were. Yeah, Lord Henry, well, that's certainly job security.
Right where we need to go. Then let's deal with them quick.
Okay, now here you're going to be introduced to companion abilities, and now they become active. Okay, so I'm going to hit escape, and then I'm immediately going to hit tab. And now you can see that your companions have abilities as well. So the soothing potion, Harding, is by default the closest equivalent would be like a cleric type of person. She's going to be able to heal you. This grants you rejuvenation, which is going to heal up to 600 hit points over a certain amount of time. Your companion abilities have a cooldown in seconds, whereas your abilities have a cooldown, but they also have a requirement for momentum, which is what this bar is down here. Your companions don't have that. They just need to have a cooldown, okay? So she can heal you. She can also give you bonus damage, right? Now, for Bellara will give you Replenish, which instantly restores up to 424 health. So it restores instantly, but less health than what Rejuvenation will give you, which restores it over time. She also has a direct attack, which is Fade Bolts. It applies a condition shocked on hit, and it detonates Sundered. I, with Static Strikes, apply Weakened, and I detonate Overwhelmed. So right now, there's nobody in our party that can give the Overwhelmed effect or the Sundered effect to anybody. I can apply Weakening, but nobody can detonate Weakening. Right? So there's no combos that are available to us per se right now, but we still have abilities that we can call on. So I'm going to give myself a soothing potion here from her, just because I am down a little bit of health. I'm going to apply my Static Strikes to this enemy here, and then I'm going to change targets and have Bellara use Fade Bolts on this one. No, I hit that dodge button.
Nice moves.
Okay, and now I have a level up. So we can look at our skills. I have another skill point that's available here. So now I either have Spill Blood, so maximum bleeding stacks +1, or physical resistance +10. Either way, I'm going to end up back here at Leaping Shot. So I'm going to go with Bulwark, just because, again, I'm not great at being a glass cannon. And I still haven't unlocked my ultimate, so to speak. You'll see more, you're going to learn more about that as we go back. The game is still in its tutorial mode for a little bit of this. We can't do anything with our companions' traits and skills or any of that sort of stuff here either.
So what is this artifact we're looking for exactly?
I have a couple of theories, but nothing definite. We might find some clues in the ruins, though.
I don't usually see.
Okay, and there we
anything
picked
that
up our
haven't been
first item. The Jumper's Deft Leathers. Now, armor is going to come in different types. Medium, light, and heavy armor. Those don't have an effect as far as your class goes, per se, but your abilities, or your skills, I should say, might buff certain of those things. You may get certain things that say, if you are wearing medium helmet and chest plate, then, or medium armor, then you're going to get this bonus. So that's what the type of armor applies to. Generally, the higher the type of armor, the better the defense is going to be on it. But that can change depending upon the level of the armor that you're getting, so to speak. The lighter the armor, the more your ability recharge and or damage is going to tend to be. Okay, so that's kind of how it works. There are skill trade-offs, not you can't wear it because it's light, medium, or heavy and you're of a different class, quote unquote. So a little different than you might expect from the Baldur's Gate 3 playthroughs that I saw. So I'm definitely going to equip this.
over.
Not many people come this far into Arlathan. Just veil jumpers, mostly.
And people trying to save the
Hey,
world.
Mixed Life, welcome to the stream. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the hopeful wish. I hope it goes well also.
What was this place?
And for all of you who I haven't seen your names before on the stream, if you have any questions as we're going, feel free to ask them. If I'm not in the middle of a combat or explaining something else, then I will hopefully get back to you. But again, thank you all for being here. I appreciate it.
It almost feels like an armory.
Wow. I've never seen anything like this.
Wait, is this? No, it can't be. Not here.
Can't be what?
We have to get over there. The artifact we're looking for must be inside.
Okay, so Bellara has seen something, and is going to want us to head over there and check it out. But again, as always, we're going to look around behind us. Sometimes boxes are going to be blocking your way to get into other areas. So while I'm not going to spend my entire life breaking boxes, which I do on my personal playthrough, there are times when it is useful to break them, either to find an object or to progress through a different area. And again, you're going to realize quickly that I tend to take the side routes to get somewhere. I tend not to go directly at something, if you've never seen me do a playthrough before. I always tend to scout out the flanks, so to speak, first, speaking in my military terminology that I'm so familiar with in my life. I tend to search those things out first, and then...
Supposed to jump across? Oh, no, we can make a bridge. There should be a power crystal somewhere nearby.
Before I head straight where the game wants me to go. Now, this introduces you to the key and lock mechanic, basically. You can pick up a key.
Got it.
That key will follow around behind you for a limited amount of time. Once that time gets close to being up, you're going to see it start to flash, and then it will disappear and go back to where it started from. And you have to pick it up again. So they're not following you all the time. They're on a timer, but then you place them on top of a key stand, and something's going to happen. And again, I'm just kind of scouting out and around a little bit before I do what the game wants me to do.
A resonance amplifier. It's drawing magic from the ring temple to this area. I need to shut it down before we can go up the path. But doing that will attract anything nasty that's hanging around.
We're ready.
And again, as I talked about previously, your AoE jump attack landing is going to be the best way to kind of clear out some of these groups of barrels and that sort of stuff if you're interested in doing that. So she gave you, Bellara gave you a little hint that as soon as we interact with the amplifier there, it's probably going to attract some bad things. So be ready for some combat here. And this is also going to introduce you to a new mechanic where you can have your companions interact with objects. So you click tab, and now something's highlighted up at the top. Your skills are kind of disabled, it says invalid target. But here, the tinker option shows up at the top. So now we're telling Bellara, go tinker with this thing. Okay, and here you learn a little bit more about that orange and yellow and red bar that's above your head. It lets you know that you need to dodge. You can either dodge or defend, either way. Now, as a rogue, I tend to go for the dodge mechanic. I tend to be very mobile on the battlefield and avoid damage, as much damage as I can, by dodging. Now again, I'm old. My Twitch skills aren't what they, used to be back in the past. So my dodging is a little hit and miss sometimes. Sometimes it's really good, especially if I've been playing the game for a few hours. But at the start, it's normally really bad. So I'm going to be utilizing dodge for the most part here.
Ranged attackers!
Okay, so I'm going to head over here. And deal with the ranged attacker first. And I'm going to be watching out for the dodge icon above my head. Oh, I didn't finish him? Oh, yeah, I did. This is a different enemy. Okay, so I'm going to use my static strikes here, and I'm going to have Bellara hopefully finish off this enemy over here. I might as well use Adrenaline Rush on myself.
last of the magic energy. Path should be clear ahead.
Okay. Fairly straightforward. As a rogue, I tend to go after the ranged enemies first. And you'll find that out that the ranged enemies, and this isn't just this game, this is a BioWare thing. Ranged enemies are almost a bit OP. So taking them out first tends to be a priority for me. In this class, in this group setup, I am the main damage dealer. However, my companions can draw aggro of a main boss enemy while I go deal with other enemies in the background. And overall, once I get it down to a one-on-one combat, then it's pretty much over. I can handle most one-on-one encounters myself using the dodge mechanic. Okay, so again, kind of exploring around the outsides first. We can see that we have another automaton up there that we're going to have to deal with.
So, that ritual, the big one where the sky was ripping apart, you say that was Fen'Harel? I mean, the real Fen'Harel?
That's what I've been told. Though right now, he goes by Solas.
And, sorry, the things that got out, the big scary ones, that was Gilnane and Elgranon?
Are you okay? You sound a little flustered.
Oh, you know, just finding out that 3 of my gods are out there trying to end the world. Why wouldn't I be okay?
So some pretty funny dialogue there from Bellara. Now let's head up here towards this main entrance again. And we'll deal with the combat that's obviously waiting for us. Couple more side areas to kind of look at first. Might as well heal up completely.
They died. Even mages have trouble with the artifacts here.
Okay, it's not the Dreadwolf, but another, so there's an archive spirit in here that we're looking for.
They expect them to work like, you know, normal magic. But they're different. The magic's more alive somehow.
And we're going to learn more about this archive spirit as we go through this. That's going to be the main goal here eventually.
Damn! Another sentinel construct. We'll have to take it down.
Oh, ran right into that.
Easy enough. But watch out. Whenever you see one, there's more nearby. Seeing these kinds of ruins never gets old.
Can anything here tell us what that artifact is?
I have a theory, but we're miles away from where that artifact should be.
So again, you can see a key that's already on top of a lock, so that means that as soon as we remove it, this door is probably going to close. So we want to make sure we've looted everything in here before we go. Pick it up. Sure enough, that door is going to close. And another big chest. So going to be another item in here, the Storm Needle. So it is a substantial upgrade over our Rapier, which is our offhand weapon, I believe. And you see some of these things are locked. In the item description, there are some locked things here. You get those by leveling up the item, and you do that through a mechanic that we're going to see later on in the game. This is what your crafting materials are used for, is for leveling up some of these items and unlocking the various abilities that each item has. Okay, now you see here, we've got quite a few enemies here to be able to deal with. Thankfully, we're not going to have to deal with them all at once.
These constructs! It means I was right. Right about what? About where we are. It's an armory. And I think I know what the artifact is.
Okay, time for some... Actually, we're going to escape out and let them come out a little bit, so... She's already using Fade Bolts on him. So I'm going to get Adrenaline Rush, and I'm going to use my Static Strikes on them. Need to learn to time that better. I'm constantly getting hit by it.
I'm good.
Barrel and crate makers. I constantly keep them in business.
So, what kind of artifact shows up in an armory? A weapon?
An archive spirit.
A what?
A creature of the Fade, bound to a crystal. Our ancestors used them to store knowledge and to help them dream.
Okay, so now you kind of know what we're looking for. We're looking for that archive spirit that was referenced earlier. Oh, nothing behind this waterfall. Now we're going to get introduced to a new enemy here. We're going to get a cutscene for it.
Methalinast. Darkspawn.
Okay, now Darkspawn, if you land headshots, you can one-shot them.
Darkspawn. Here. I never would have believed it. Until today.
So they're a good way to practice your ranged attacks if you're playing as a rogue. Because they are very susceptible to the critical hit headshots that come along with your bow. You can clear out the battlefield fairly quickly as long as your aim is decent enough to get through it. And mine can be hit or miss. Trust me. Okay, so again, not going the way that the game wants me to go right off the bat, but taking an opportunity to explore a little bit. Okay, so we had a jewelry box and some more crafting materials. And we have another resonance amplifier here.
Once I shut it down, the path ahead will remain blocked until the magic dissipates.
We've got your back.
I'm on it. Here we go. I've never seen Darkspawn this deep into Arlathan Forest before. As far as I know, it's never happened.
If the gods are blighted, like Solas claims, maybe they're communicating with the Darkspawn somehow. Directing them?
You saw those Darkspawn, though? Something was different about them.
And we'll stop them once we get out of this bubble.
Right. Let's get to that central temple.
And this is another reason why I like the rogue playstyle. It allows me a combination of ranged skill-based stuff as well as melee. And I really enjoy combining the two different aspects of it. But again, everyone has their own likes and dislikes about combat, and I certainly see the benefits of all the combat styles of all three different classes. And you see there's some extra hidden little gold. So now we're going to get introduced to another mechanic here, which is the ballista. This is going to show up a couple of times here in the early part of the game where you have a fixed installation that you can interact with. You use this to not just kill enemies, but also to explode walls.
More Darkspawn, right where you broke that wall.
Okay, it gets an AoE damage effect. And you have some red barrels around here to help you. And then you hit your dodge button to get out of it. What you didn't see there is if something gets close enough to damage you, or if you get hit with a ranged attack, it will knock you off of the ballista, and you will have to re-engage with it.
And another resonance amplifier.
Should be the last one, I hope.
Me too.
And this is going to be a good point. Once we finish this combat, we will end the stream for today. This ought to be a good place to end the live stream. We're going to be getting into kind of the final end game fight, which we will save for the next week's live stream. But for now, this ought to be a good place for us to end today. So let's finish up on some combat here. And I'm going to get some distance here. Good time to bring out some Fade Bolt.
We're close. I can feel it.
Perfect. So, I'm going to drop a save here. And I think that will be a good spot for us to end the stream today. So, we've gotten a good introduction to the mechanics of how your combat works, how some of the items work, as well as how some of your companions work. We're going to be expanding on that next week when we get into combos and how certain characters' abilities can enhance the damage and crowd control options that combat allows. Right now we don't have any abilities that combo with each other, but we're going to be given some abilities next week which are going to show that. So we're still in kind of the tutorial mode of the game. We're still getting tooltips that pop up and explain certain things to us, and we still haven't had we had a Pride Demon fight, which was a boss fight. But we haven't really seen a whole lot more other than that. And we're going to see a bit more of that coming up next week as we continue to work our way through the Arlathan forest here. So, as always, thank you all for being here today. For the new live stream, I certainly appreciate everybody attending. If it was your first time here, I appreciate you being here. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop a comment on the video afterward. And hope to see you next week, because as always, without your support, none of this would be possible. This is Commander Jorval saying, until next time, fare thee well.